Hi, my name is Hannah Lee. I am the YA Services Librarian here at Belmont Public Library, and I am here with.
I'm Bethany Campbell. I'm a children's librarian here at Belmont Public Library. I'm excited to be here today.
Yeah, we are here to talk to you about tween titles. And Bethany, tell us a little bit what tween means to you as a book section.
That's a really great question. So for me, what tween means to me is really grounded in my past work as a middle school librarian. So I worked with fifth graders through eighth graders, really saw that sort of transition time, that age group. So tween books are really that sort of movement from children's books to YA. It covers a lot of range in there and is often about that sort of range of age group. The protagonists are that age. So it's a lot of fun. And ultimately what tween books mean to me is just a lot of fun. There's all sorts of different genres, but often they're just a lot of fun to read.
I agree. I have come from a background of doing teen, YA, and also children's and youth services. So it's really fun because tween is just that perfect point where people are like, okay, I've learned how to read. Now teach me how to love to read. So that's kind of my idea of where tween really sits in the timeline of our trajectory of learning how to read and learning to love to read. So one of our best examples of tween books are Rick Riordan books. We all know those. So those are the things that we kind of see in the library going out a lot. But we are here today bringing you new titles that may be a little bit off your radar, and some of them may be like right on the nose. So we are happy to share them with you. Bethany, would you like to give us your first pick?
Yes, I would love to, especially since you were talking about sort of tween being in a time of learning to love how to read. I think this first book really goes with it. It's called The Las Quintista, if you can see it. It's all about loving to read and loving stories, which I really love. So it follows the story of Petra Penna, who all she wants to be is a storyteller, just like her grandmother, or a quintista, as she calls it. But she finds herself on a spaceship leaving Earth because there's a comet headed their way. And she's one of the people that's been chosen to leave Earth and go settle a new planet called Sagan. So she's getting ready to be on this new planet. And she finds out that it's going to take 340 years to get there. So what she has to do for the next 340 years is be put in this gel. And all she'll do is hear different things and learn different things, because there's a computer program they put into your brain that helps you hear things and learn things throughout these hundreds of years that she'll be sort of asleep, if that makes sense. Much to Petra's disappointment, when she arrives on the ship, she finds out that they've only programmed things like geology and botany, and they've forgotten all of the stories. So none of the mythologies, none of the novels that she thought she was going to be getting, and she's pretty disappointed. And she realizes also, right as they put her to sleep, that something's not quite right. And in that time, her watcher, Ben, looks out for her and programs it so she has every book imaginable, which she's very happy about. But she realizes that there's still something not quite right. And when she wakes up way earlier than she's supposed to, so way earlier than those 300 years, she really realizes things aren't right. So she has to help get the ship back on course. She has to save all of the other people on the ship, including a bunch of children just like her. And she has to protect the most important thing. So all of Earth's stories, which she happens to be the only person who remembers them. So that's The Las Quintista. It's amazing. And I highly recommend it. If you'd like to check it out, I'll show you again. And then I actually do, Hannah mentioned before, a favorite, Rick Riordan. And I do have.
I do have a spinoff, if you don't mind. So the spinoff. So I love this because Las Quintista, I highly recommend as well. It's a very good, like, combination of like what you can think of will be the distant future, but at the same time kind of brings back some interesting things that, like, with like retaining our culture in a new environment. What does it mean to be human if you don't have your stories? Those kind of cool ideas. So I do have some spinoffs that are slightly older. I would recommend the seventh grade and up. This is Goddess and the Machine by Laura Beth Johnson. It is one of those books that you want to read if you want to really engage yourself into a story that is the future. So there's new language. Things have changed in the language thousands of years in the future. This is a daughter of a scientist who awakens in a pod, similar to the Las Quintista. But she's from a part of the future where they used to have a lot of technology to help retain information in their heads. And she wakes up to a future that doesn't have the access to that technology and considers it magic. So it's another kind of storyline. It's definitely for like a little bit older than what I would say Las Quintista aims for. And then this is also older. If you're looking for an adventure in space with someone who carries their own stories, Aetherbound is a magic sci-fi combo. So if you kind of like that, I am carrying the weight of the world on my shoulders type of story, this is a good one. It's a thin one for high-low readers, but at the same time, I also recommend skewing a little bit older for that one. It's pretty solidly YA. I know we're talking tween, but I had to throw some in there.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing those. They sound really fascinating. Yes, so Las Quintista, I would definitely say settles right in that tween. And I would say so does this next one that I have by a favorite, Rick Riordan. It's his newest one. It's Daughter of the Deep. So this one is a retelling of a classic sci-fi novel, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne. So it's a little bit of a different reimagining though. This one instead tells the story of Anna Dakar, who's a freshman at a school called Harding Pencroft, which has all sorts of water professions that you can become if you go there. So you can become a marine biologist, a naval warrior, an underwater explorer if you want to. So it's all very under the water themed in this one, as you can maybe guess from the title. So the thing about Anna's freshman year, though, that she's a little nervous about is at the end of the year, it ends with a weekend that's a trial at sea. And she hopes it will go really well. Alas, on the way there, a disaster strikes for Anna and her classmates, and they find themselves in a race against a rival school. So there's tons of intrigue and adventure along the way. And of course, Rick Riordan's a favorite. So if you'd like to try out, instead, he usually does more things that lean in the fantasy realm. This leans a little further into sci-fi, but definitely solidly tween adventure if you'd like to try it out. I think, Hannah, you had some titles that were maybe some similar ones too, right?
Yeah, because I feel like there's a very strong like science trend. A lot of authors in that upper middle grade area are definitely focusing on a lot on like what will the future be like, and also what science does this generation need to know almost. So that's kind of another spinoff. I have a competing title for Atlantis here. So this is Atlantis: The Accidental Invasion. And this is a paired story, dual perspective, where one character is from Atlantis. It's a high-tech oceanic underwater civilization. She's heard stories, this main character, of the sun people who live above the ocean surface. And then on the flip side, there is Lewis, who is a scientist's son, who is basically trying to find out how to survive the oncoming onslaught of global warming. So they are worrying about things like plate tectonics and all the different type of things that happen with the mysterious tsunamis that are threatening life on Earth. And so basically he and his oceanographer father discover Atlantis, and their worlds collide in the most interesting of ways, and possibly the most helpful as well. So finding hope in unfortunate situations is kind of a very key theme in both children's and young adult literature.
I think so.
And then also tying into that climate change thread is Flood City by Daniel Jose Older. Daniel Jose Older is a fantastic writer of alternate history. So he takes what we know to be history and he spins it in slightly a different way to give a completely different result. So if you have kind of this is kind of Mad Max, but for tweens in a way, with a combo of climate change. So this is called Flood City by Daniel Jose Older. If you're looking for an adventure action-packed story that's similar to Rick Riordan, but has a little bit more kind of real world applications in a way, then you could also consider these two to be really good solid options.
Nice. So yours are really grounded in real world too. And my next one, though it is also Rick Riordan sort of connected, takes things totally away and goes out into space instead. So we left kind of Earth behind, and this one is in space. So this book, Dragon Pearl by Yoon-Ha Lee, is from the Rick Riordan Presents series, which is where he really celebrates books by different cultures or grounded in different cultures' mythologies. So a lot of great titles have come out of this imprint, and Dragon Pearl is a sci-fi fantasy novel. So there's little pieces of both, which is my favorite kind of speculative fiction. So it's based on Korean mythology, and like I said, set in space. And the story follows 13-year-old Min. So it does skew a little bit younger, still in that tween phase. So Min has fox magic, and her mother has forbidden her from ever using it. So she gets pretty frustrated about that, kind of is feeling a little trapped in by that commandment. And when all of that is happening, she also finds out that her brother has been accused of leaving his post in the Star Force or in the Space Forces, and that he's gone to hunt for this dragon pearl. And she thinks that something definitely doesn't seem right about that. Something seems wrong. So she goes on a space odyssey herself to go try to find him and to clear his name. So definitely a fascinating adventure up in space, if that's your thing.
And if you like space, I've got a couple of options for you. This is the classic recommendation, Ender's Game. It's going to be on summer reading for, I think, 7th and 8th grade. So it's going to be there in your child's life as they grow older. But Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card is that classic explore space type of option in a slightly different way, through video games almost. Then we have randoms. So if you're looking for a funny version of things, if you want to go into space but not take things as seriously, this is an action-packed adventure. It's Randoms by David Liss. And then if your kiddo is moving on and up, if they are ready to try something that's a little bit more big, we have Illuminae, which is a series by Amy Kaufman and Jay Kristoff. It definitely kind of falls more in that YA trend, but if you are trying to capture an interest of a growing tween going into teen, this is a really fascinating and awesome pick to choose, because this is basically hacker space explorers fight epidemic zombies in space. So, it's fun. Also, there's also some AI thrown in there. You've got to have everything covered when it comes to sci-fi. So this has all that. It does have a little bit of romance, though. So that's why I'm saying if they're ready. And then what else do we have on your plate, Bethany?
That's a great question. Well, you swung up a little with Illuminae. I'll swing back towards my end of things. So you can find this book in the children's room. So if you have somebody who's sort of transitioning into tween books, this could be a great option for you. The last one I have is called Weird Kid by Greg Van Eckhout. It was checked out. It's been very popular. So it's checked out. So I just have a picture of the title today. But so Weird Kid is all about the story of Jake Wind, who's a shape-shifting goo alien who has shape-shifted into the form of a human boy. And he is trying to figure out with his friend Agnes why all the people in their neighborhood seem to be acting pretty strange. He's trying to figure out what exactly imblobsters are that seem to be taking over people in his neighborhood, and also why he can't seem to hold on to his human shape. So again, we left Earth, we went out into space with some of my other options, and this is bringing it back, and the goo aliens. So it's a lot of fun. It's hilarious, and I would highly recommend it. Do you have any more options, Hannah?
Yeah, I think you have a picture on your iPad of one that I just love to recommend. Yeah. If you're looking for another goo kid, Trouble in the Stars, written by Sarah Proneus, is a perfect option. That's basically an oddballs in space find family. So it's a perfect little thing to say, hey, like, how do we control our feelings? This kid is trying to figure it out because this is the first time he's had feelings. It's definitely trying to manage, like, oh, do you have like a monster inside sometimes that makes that's really angry? How do you manage that? It's a really good way to manage changing things. All just changes as you grow older. It's just kind of that capturing tween essence. And then I have just a couple of favorites that I want to pass off that are basically dystopia tween. So eighth graders have to read The Giver during the summer assignments, but I have a better recommendation. This is Pet by Aqua Emeze. Pet by Aqua Emeze is basically everybody's fixed all the problems that we have here in everyday life, and they're fixed. They're gone. Like there's no need for laws because there's no need for law enforcement because people follow the laws and everybody believes in each other and relies on each other and is nice. But this girl, her mother is an artist, and her mother accidentally summons a terrifying, scary version of an angel to this society that's supposedly been made all better. And this angel is hunting for a monster in their midst. And so this is a very similar vibe to The Giver. It does have that what can we not see because we think everything is fine type of story that is just perfect for this kind of sci-fi tween spinoff. And then if you just love pets and you're just wanting to have a story that has a nice little pet in it, and you're just you want to kind of find hope in the darkness. Well, this is D39, A Robo-Dog's Journey. So this is a D39 Robo-Dog's Journey by Irene Latham. You can find this pretty easily. It's a book novel in verse about a robot dog and his owner. So this is going through a dystopian world. There's lots of different challenges people are trying to face in a difficult time. But these two are sticking it out together. And you know what's great about a robot dog? It can't die. Okay. And then our last one that I want to recommend is Jonathan Stroud's The Outlaws Scarlet and Brown. Jonathan Stroud is one of my favorite tween authors. I think he should have been the Rick Riordan, to be honest. He was the Rick Riordan of the 90s, and he's come back now to bring us The Outlaws Scarlet and Brown in a dystopian Britain with lots of espionage and thieving and fun, action-packed adventure. I definitely highly recommend this as something to pick up if you like things like City Spies and just, you know, those rambunctious adventures for tween books. So those are what I have, and I am so happy that we are able to talk about one of my favorite genres today. Bethany, any closing statements?
I think I was excited to talk about sci-fi too. I love it as well. And I think what's so perfect about it is that sci-fi, just like tween books, has so many different options. Like even today, talking about space or on Earth, dystopian, you know, all different aliens, all different options. I really love the wide range of things, wide range of experience. And I think that really encapsulates the tween genre as well.
I agree. And I definitely think that, you know, with all the weird stuff that's going on, why not get weirder?
Yeah.
So
exactly. Why not have goo aliens?
Why not? And just it just kind of makes everything seem a little bit easier on our side of the world.
Yeah, exactly.
So thank you all for attending, and we hope to see you next month for our next Tween Talk. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Bethany is in the children's room, and I am floating around somewhere. You can usually find me on email at hlee@minlib.net. I'm just going to put it out there. You can just email me. It's fine. And that's it. That's all I've got.
Perfect.
Bye.
Bye.